My family thought leaving me home to feed the dog while they celebrated at the beach was the insult. It wasn't. The real betrayal was the $410,000 property contract they planned to close on Monday, without telling the woman who could stop it. Me. My name is Lena Mercer. I am 35 years old, and on the Saturday morning of Labor Day weekend, I woke up in my mother's guest room to an empty house. No coffee brewing, no suitcases by the door, no voices downstairs trying to whisper and failing. Just a yellow note on the kitchen counter. Feed Winston at 6, give Grandpa his evening pills, the back door sticks, we will be home Monday. For 2 weeks, my family had told me not to make plans. My mother had smiled whenever I asked why. My younger brother had nearly laughed twice. My sister kept saying, "Just trust us for once." So I trusted them. Then, a little after noon, my phone showed me exactly where they had gone. My mother, my sister, my brother, their spouses, and all the children were standing on the balcony of a rented beach house in North Carolina. Behind them, the ocean was bright blue and a banner said Mercer Family Weekend. Across the bottom of my sister's post were 8 words, "Best trip ever. When Shez not around, LOL." I did not call them. I did not leave an angry comment. I took a screenshot, put my phone down, and finished making my grandfather's lunch, because by then I had noticed something else on the counter. Under the note was a courier receipt from a title company. The delivery address was the old Mercer Printworks building, the property my father had left behind when he died. My family believed they were spending the weekend celebrating its $410,000 sale. They believed the closing would happen Monday morning, and they believed I had no idea. By Monday afternoon, I had 47 missed calls. The last voicemail came from my mother. "Lena, please answer. The buyer walked away. Ryan says this is your fault." It was not my fault, but it was my signature they had convinced themselves I would give. Let me go back, because the woman standing in that silent kitchen had not become invisible overnight. My family had been practicing for years. I own a small renovation estimating company in western Pennsylvania. Contractors send me plans, I calculate labor, materials, timelines, and the real price of somebody's beautiful idea. I have 4 employees, 1 office above a pharmacy, and a reputation for finding expensive problems before walls are opened. My father used to say I could hear a bad measurement. He was not wrong. Dad owned Mercer Printworks, a 2-story brick building on Laurel Street. The presses stopped running years ago, but when I was a child, the place smelled like ink, hot paper, and his peppermint gum. He printed restaurant menus, wedding invitations, school programs, anything the town needed. On Saturday mornings, Dad let me sit on a wooden stool beside the paper cutter. He would hold up 2 shades of cream paper that looked exactly the same to me and ask which one felt warmer. I always guessed wrong. "Don't rush," he would say. "Look again. Small differences matter when somebody trusts you with something important." When I was 12, I ruined 500 church programs by feeding the paper crooked. I cried so hard I could barely breathe. Dad did not yell. He showed me how to stop the press, square the stack, and begin again. "A mistake is expensive only if you keep printing it," he said. Years later, standing in that empty kitchen, I finally understood that my family had been printing the same mistake for a very long time. When online printing took over, Dad rented the ground floor to a cabinet maker and turned the upstairs into small studios. The building did not make anyone rich, but it paid its mortgage and gave 3 local businesses a home. Then Dad died 5 years ago after a short fight with pancreatic cancer. Grief does strange things to a family. Some people fall apart, some become very busy so they never have to. I became very busy. My mother, Denise, could organize a church dinner for 200 people, but a tax notice frightened her. My sister Kelsey had 3 children and a talent for making every crisis sound temporary. My brother Ryan was always 6 months away from the idea that would change his life. After Dad's funeral, I handled the building, leases, repairs, insurance fights, and every emergency, after work, without being asked or paid. At first, it felt like love. Then it became my position in the family. Lena will know, Lena can call, Lena will fix it. Every family gathering included a moment when a folder slid toward me. I never made a speech about it. I thought keeping the roof from leaking was more useful than explaining why I was tired. The only person who noticed was my grandfather, Arthur, my father's father. He was 84, walked with a polished wooden cane, and still wore a tie to the dentist. "They keep handing you buckets," he told me once, "because you never let the floor get wet." I laughed when he said it. I should not have. The real trouble began with Ryan's restaurant. Ryan had managed bars for years and wanted to open a sports grill called The Yard. He had logos, menus, and a video of the space he played at every Sunday dinner. What he did not have was enough money. The bank wanted a larger down payment and 6 months of reserves. Ryan called that negative thinking. In June, he asked me to invest $60,000. I told him I could not. Then I offered to review his business plan for free. He heard only the first sentence. "You always think you're the smartest person in the room," he said. My mother touched my arm and whispered, "Could you try to believe in him?" I told her believing in someone and writing a check were not the same thing. Dinner ended early. After that, my family became unusually cheerful around me. Too cheerful. Conversation stopped when I entered. Kelsey changed the subject whenever I mentioned Labor Day. 2 weeks before the holiday, Mom called me at work. "Do not book anything that weekend," she said. "I mean it, Lena." "Why?" "Because your family is planning something." That sentence stayed with me. "Your family is planning something. I asked if I should pack." She laughed softly. "Just keep the weekend open." At the next Sunday dinner, Ryan raised his glass and said, "To new beginnings." Everyone smiled. When I asked what that meant, Kelsey told me to stop inspecting every sentence like a contract. I should have listened to the word she chose. Contract. The Friday before Labor Day, Mom invited me to stay overnight. She claimed Grandpa had been dizzy and she wanted me nearby in case he needed anything. Grandpa lived 6 blocks away. I found him perfectly alert, watching baseball and complaining about the umpire. "Your mother says you were dizzy," I told him. "Your mother says many things when she wants the furniture arranged." I asked what that meant, but he only looked at me for a long moment. "What did she promise you?" he asked. "Nothing." "Then be careful what you imagine." Back at Mom's house, suitcases were hidden badly in the laundry room. Ryan arrived with a cooler, and Kelsey brought the children to say goodnight. My niece Sophie hugged me tightly. "I wish you were—" Kelsey interrupted her. "Go find your shoes." I looked directly at my sister. "Were?" "She is tired," Kelsey said. I asked Mom one last time if I needed to know anything about the weekend. She put both hands around mine. "For once, can you let us handle the plan?" That was carefully said. I can see that now. She did not tell me the plan included me. She only asked me to stop looking at it. I slept in the guest room. At 6 the next morning, car doors closed. Half awake, I smiled because I thought someone was moving vehicles for the surprise. At 8:15, the house was empty. The note was on the counter. So were Winston's dog food instructions, Grandpa's medication schedule, 2 bags of groceries I was apparently expected to deliver, and the number for a plumber who might arrive Monday. They had not forgotten me. Forgetting is accidental. They had assigned me. I called my mother, straight to voicemail. I called Kelsey. No answer. Ryan rejected the call after 2 rings. I stood in that kitchen feeling embarrassed by hope. That was the sharpest part. Not the work they had left, but the private little celebration I had built in my mind. I took the groceries to Grandpa. He opened the door, looked behind me, and said, "So they did it." "Did what?" His mouth tightened. "Come inside." Before he could explain, my phone buzzed. Kelsey's beach house post filled the screen. There they all were. Mom in a white sun hat, Ryan holding a bottle of champagne, Kelsey beside a banner, children in matching blue shirts, even Aunt Molly, who claimed she could not attend my birthday dinner because driving after dark made her nervous. And the caption, "Best trip ever, when Shez not around LOL." The post had been public for 23 minutes. People from our town had already liked it. One of Kelsey's friends had commented. Finally, I read the words once more, took a screenshot, and handed the phone to Grandpa. He did not look surprised. He looked ashamed. "How long have you known?" I asked. "About the beach?" "Since Thursday. About why they went?" "Since yesterday." He reached for a thick white envelope on the table. The return address belonged to North Valley Title and Escrow. Inside was a copy of a purchase agreement for Mercer Printworks. Sale price, $410,000. Proposed closing, Monday, 11 a.m., buyer, Laurel Street Development Partners. The buyer planned to remove the studio tenants, demolish the rear workshop, and convert the building into luxury short-term rentals. At the bottom was a distribution sheet. The remaining mortgage would be paid. My mother would receive part of the proceeds. Ryan would receive $90,000 as an early family advancement for his restaurant. Kelsey would receive $30,000 to clear credit cards. My name appeared nowhere. Why was this sent to you? I asked. Grandpa tapped the last page. Because your father was not a foolish man. Attached was a copy of the deed. 5 years earlier, 3 months before Dad died, he had transferred his 51% interest in Mercer Printworks Holdings to me. My mother retained 49%. I knew I owned shares. I had signed the papers beside Dad's hospital bed. But after his death, Mom told me it was only a tax arrangement and that she would handle any future sale when the family was ready. I had been too numb to read closely. Now I read every line. The building could not be sold, refinanced, demolished, or transferred without approval from the majority owner, me. Does Mom know? I asked. She knows your name is in the company papers, Grandpa said. Ryan told everyone you had already agreed. He told the title company you were traveling for work and would sign electronically Monday morning. They were waiting for your consent. He was betting you would give in once the whole family had already celebrated. Why didn't you call me? I tried yesterday. Your mother took my phone to update it. When she returned it, your number was blocked. That hurt in a new place. Grandpa looked at the purchase agreement. Your father gave you control because you kept the building alive when he got sick. He said Ryan saw a check, Kelsey saw a rescue, and your mother saw relief. You were the only one who still saw a building. I wanted to be furious. Instead, I became very calm. Calm is not weakness. Sometimes calm is anger that has found a chair and opened a notebook. I went home and pulled records from 5 years of files. The first receipt took me back to a January night when the upstairs furnace died. I had been saving for a down payment on a house. Instead, I sat in my car outside the heating company and transferred $11,000 so the tenants would not spend the night in the cold. Another invoice brought back the afternoon rain poured through the photography studio ceiling. I held a bucket beneath framed baby portraits while the photographer moved her equipment. Mom promised she would pay me back when things settled down. Things never settled down. They simply learned my bank account number. Roof, furnace, taxes, masonry, insurance, inspection work, the individual. Figures no longer mattered as much as what they represented. Every dollar I had saved for my own future had gone into holding our fathers, building together while my family planned to sell it behind my back. The final total was $56,890. And that did not include 5 years of managing the place for free. They called Mercer Printworks a burden. They just never noticed whose back it was sitting on. At 3 that afternoon, I called the title company. I did not shout. I did not accuse anyone of fraud. I introduced myself, gave the company registration number, and asked whether my electronic consent was still listed as pending. The closer checked the file. Yes, Ms. Mercer, the title report identifies you as the majority member. Mr. Mercer told us you had approved the sale and would join Monday's remote signing. He lied. I never approved it, and I will not sign. The closer's voice changed immediately. Then this transaction cannot close. I emailed a formal written refusal, along with the operating agreement, so nobody could later claim my answer had been unclear. Then I called the 3 tenants and told them their leases were safe. The cabinet maker, Luis, went silent before saying, "Your brother came through Wednesday taking pictures. He told us not to worry until October." That sentence removed the last doubt I had. This was not a misunderstanding, it was a plan. Luis asked if he should begin looking for another shop. "No," I said. "Your lease is valid, and so is the photographer's upstairs. Nobody is putting you on the sidewalk." After the call, I sat alone in Dad's old office at the rear of the building. His wooden ruler still hung beside the door. Pencil marks climbed one wall where he had measured us as children. Kelsey at 9, me at 11. Ryan, on tiptoe, cheating by half an inch. That was when I finally cried. Not over the money, not even over the beach. I cried because my family was willing to erase a place full of our father's fingerprints without asking the daughter who had spent 5 years keeping them dry. Then I washed my face in the workshop sink, locked Dad's office, and went back to the numbers. Sunday morning, Grandpa and I ate pancakes at a diner. My phone remained quiet. My family believed I was at home feeding the dog, delivering pills, and waiting obediently for Monday. Posted another picture, champagne glasses beside a folder. Big things coming for the Mercers. I took another screenshot. Then I did something I had postponed for years. I drafted a property management agreement. Every expense would be visible, every owner contribution would be documented. My work would be paid, no family member could withdraw building funds for personal use. I also drafted my resignation from every unpaid job I held by habit. I removed myself as emergency contact for Ryan's storage unit. I sent Kelsey the password reset link for the bookkeeping file I maintained for her husband. I scheduled the family phone plan to separate at the end of the billing cycle. None of those actions were revenge. They were labels. For years, my family had placed their responsibilities in boxes marked Lena. I was returning each box to its owner. Monday at 10:53, I was sitting beside Grandpa on a park bench outside the town's Labor Day fair. At 11:12, my mother called. At 11:14, she called again. At 11:17, Ryan called 3 times. At 11:26, Kelsey sent, "Did you contact the title company?" I put the phone away and bought Grandpa a lemonade. At noon, the title company emailed confirmation that closing had been canceled because the seller lacked authority. At 12:03, Ryan left a voicemail. "You ruined everything. Do you understand what you have done?" At 1:15, my mother left hers. "Lena, there has been some confusion. We were going to explain when we got home." At 3:40, Kelsey deleted the post. Not apologized, deleted. By evening, I had 47 missed calls. The final message came at 9:22. My mother's voice sounded small. "Please answer. The buyer walked away. Ryan says this is your fault." I listened twice, then I texted one sentence to the normal family group chat. "Wednesday, 7 p.m., my office, bring every document you signed." The first reply came from Kelsey. "Can we please do this at Mom's house?" I wrote, "No." That single word felt heavier than all the yeses I had given them. Wednesday evening, they arrived together. Mom carried a casserole, Kelsey carried excuses, Ryan carried anger like it required both hands. I had placed 5 folders around the conference table. Grandpa sat beside me in Dad's old leather chair. Ryan did not sit. "You knew what that sale meant to me." "I knew what it meant to you," I said. "You never asked what it meant to anyone else." "Dad wanted us to use that property for the family. Dad wrote down what he wanted." I slid him the operating agreement. Mom looked at the ownership page and lost color. 51, she whispered. "Yes." Kelsey leaned forward. "Mom said you did not want to be involved. She said you were too busy for the beach and had already agreed the building should be sold." I turned to my mother. "You told them I declined?" Mom stared at the casserole lid. "I knew you would object." "You didn't ask me, Mom, you hid it. We needed one peaceful weekend," she said. "Every time money comes up, you turn it into a meeting." I opened the first folder. "Peaceful for who? You all went to the beach to spend money from my building. The meeting happened, you just made sure I wasn't in it." I passed out copies of 5 years of expenses. I did not read every invoice. I showed them the water-stained photograph from the roof leak, the heating company receipt dated 2 days before Christmas, the tax notice I had paid while Ryan was posting pictures from Las Vegas. "Every time this place was in trouble, somebody called me," I said. "Every single time. But when you thought it was worth money, suddenly I wasn't family enough to call." When I reached the total, $56,890, nobody interrupted. Ryan finally sat down. Mom's eyes filled. "I thought the rents covered it." "You receive the rent reports every quarter." "I didn't understand them. Then you could have called me. You call when a pipe breaks. Why couldn't you call before selling the whole building?" Kelsey whispered, "Why didn't you tell us?" I tried. "Remember the family budget I brought last Christmas? Ryan called it an invoice for love. You said I was making everyone uncomfortable." Ryan pushed his folder away. "Fine, pay Lena back from the sale and split the rest. The building is not for sale." He laughed once, sharply. "Then what is this, punishment? Call it whatever helps you sleep." My answer is still no. I explained that the tenants would stay. The rear workshop would be repaired and leased to a vocational program that had already asked about the space. That income, added to a reasonable contribution from both owners, would stabilize the property. My work would no longer be free. My mother could sign the new management agreement or hire someone else. But no money would leave the building for Ryan's restaurant, Kelsey's cards, or anyone's vacation. "You would choose strangers over your own brother?" Ryan asked. "Those strangers work there every day. They pay rent, they trusted us, and none of them tried to sell something I own. He stood so quickly the chair struck the wall. Then Kelsey did something I did not expect. She said, "Sit down, Ryan." He turned on her. Kelsey held up her phone. On the screen was her deleted beach post. "I wrote this because Mom told me Lena had refused the trip, and then criticized all our plans. I thought she had chosen work, and was judging us from home." She looked at me. "That does not excuse it. It was cruel. I wanted people to laugh with me at my own sister. I am sorry. It was not a perfect apology, but it contained no if, no but, and no request that I comfort her." So I nodded. Then I looked at Mom. "Why tell two different stories?" Her answer took a long time. "Because Ryan needed the money, Kelsey needed help, the building frightened me, and you." She stopped. "I what?" "You would have said no." "Exactly, so instead of hearing no, you lied to everyone and hoped I'd be too embarrassed to stop you." Mom began to cry. Grandpa spoke for the first time. "Denise, tears are not an answer." She wiped her face and tried again. "After your father died, everyone came to me for decisions I did not know how to make them. Then Lena started fixing things, and I let her. The more she handled, the less I understood. Eventually, asking her permission felt like admitting she had become the adult, and I had not. There it was. Not a good reason, not an excuse, but the truth. I closed my folder. "I didn't need you to put me in charge, Mom. I needed you to treat me like I belonged in this family." Ryan muttered that the restaurant deposit expired Friday. I told him I would review a smaller plan with him if he brought real numbers, real savings, and no claim on family property. "So you still get to approve my life?" "No, Ryan. It's your life and your bill. If you want my professional help, ask me. But I'm not paying for the dream, and I'm not risking Dad's building for it." He left without another word. Mom asked what she had to do to make the building sale possible later. "You can't make it happen behind me," I said. "If we both want to sell one day, we talk. Until then, stop looking for a way around my no." And the family? That was the real question. I pushed 3 final envelopes across the table. Inside were the responsibilities I was returning. Kelsey's free bookkeeping ended October 1st. Ryan's business calls would be billed through my office if he chose to use me. Mom would take over Grandpa's appointments every other week and become responsible for Winston, her own dog. "Are you cutting us off?" she asked. "I'm not cutting you off. I'm done doing everybody's jobs for them." Grandpa smiled at that. Mom stared at the papers, then at me. "Will you come to Sunday dinner?" "Not this week." Her face fell. "Maybe next month," I said, "if I am invited as family and not scheduled as staff." We left the office at 9:20. Outside, Grandpa took my arm. "Your father would be proud. Because I saved the building?" "Because you finally stopped confusing endurance with love the weeks afterward were not magical." Ryan did not speak to me for 4 months and told relatives I had stolen his future. The restaurant space went to someone else. Kelsey apologized again, privately this time. She started paying my company a monthly bookkeeping fee and removed the beach caption from her archive instead of pretending it had never happened. My mother resisted the management agreement for 11 days. Then she came to my office with the signed papers and a box containing every unopened property statement she had hidden in a drawer. "Teach me what these mean," she said. So I did. Not because it was my job. Because she finally asked. The vocational program moved into the rear workshop in January. Students began building cabinets beneath the old Mercer Printworks sign. The new lease covered the insurance increase and created a repair reserve. Ryan eventually came back with a business plan for a food truck. It was smaller, based on money he had actually saved, and full of problems. This time, he listened. He still could not apologize for the beach. But when he left, he paid for the consultation. I deposited it. The next Labor Day, Grandpa and I hosted an open house at the Printworks building. Kelsey brought the children. Mom volunteered at the welcome table and asked before moving anything. Ryan served sandwiches from his food truck, which was not yet a restaurant but was real. Near sunset, Sophie found me by the old loading doors. "Aunt Lena," she said, "are you glad you weren't at the beach last year?" I thought about the silent kitchen, the yellow note, and the words designed to make my absence entertaining. "No," I told her, I am glad I learned what it meant. Being excluded hurt, but being included only when I was useful had been hurting me for years. The post did not destroy my family. It exposed the deal we had mistaken for love. Mom avoided questions. Ryan expected rescue. Kelsey believed the easiest story, and I prevented every consequence before it could reach them. Now, when my family needs something, they ask. Sometimes the first say yes. Sometimes the first say no, and nobody whispers a plan into existence and calls my silence permission. I kept the screenshot, not for revenge, not to embarrass Kelsey. I keep it in the same folder as the new leases and the signed management agreement. It reminds me that the cruelest sentence anyone ever wrote about me also gave me the clearest measurement of my life. Best trip ever when Shez not around. They were right about one thing. I was not around anymore, not around to be used, assigned, hidden, or volunteered. I was present in my own life, and once I learned the difference, I never went back. If this story reminded you of a role you never agreed to play, tell me in the comments, what responsibility would you return to its real owner? And if you believe boundaries can save what silence slowly destroys, subscribe for more stories about quiet people who finally choose themselves.